The US dollar.
The US dollar.
The US dollar.
I'm Scott Miller, and this is Defending the Dollar. The US dollar is the primary international currency, a status known as dollar dominance. It's the top reserve currency, the main anchor currency, and is among the top invoicing currencies. Commodities are also, for the most part, priced in dollars. Almost anywhere you go, traders and investors want dollars. But why is that? Why is the dollar dominant? The dollar excels at each of three factors that drive international currency adoption: economic strength, market development and openness, and price stability. Throughout history, the primary international currency has been the one that best meets these criteria. And once a currency is on top, it tends to stay there. Human society has changed dramatically in the last 400 years. But in that time, we've only had three primary international currencies. The first of these was the Dutch guilder. During the Renaissance, the Dutch experimented in many fields, including banking and finance. In 1609, they opened the Bank of Amsterdam, which developed a simple yet revolutionary innovation. It measured the metallic content of coins. At the time, coins from all over the world flowed into Amsterdam and were used for exchange. These coins were minted with precious metals like gold and silver, but the issuing governments would add in cheaper materials like copper and nickel when facing economic trouble, reducing the amount of precious metal in the coin. It was hard to know how much these coins were really worth. The Bank of Amsterdam limited deposits to coins above a certain purity level, thereby standardizing and stabilizing the value of the guilder. The Dutch Republic was also one of the more culturally tolerant states in Europe, and its banks happily offered services to foreigners. The Dutch may not have had the world's largest economy, but they had an uncommonly stable currency and an efficient and open financial system, which drove international adoption of the guilder. Once it was on top, the guilder benefited from network effects, meaning a currency becomes more attractive as more people use it. Just think about it. As more people accepted guilders as payment, guilders became more useful. And the more useful guilders became, the more people accepted them, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. Network effects tend to increase exponentially, creating a huge incumbency advantage. Now you know why those merchants in Rembrandt's paintings were always smiling. Given all this, why aren't we still using guilders? Some questionable decisions by the Dutch authorities in the 18th century eroded confidence in the guilder's price stability. Traders began to look for an alternative just as a major economic shift was underway: the Industrial Revolution, which was led by Britain. Using steam power and other innovations that greatly boosted output, the British Empire quickly became an economic powerhouse. By the early 19th century, Britain was the world's largest economy and commercial power. The pound also benefited from decades of price stability, thanks to effective management and massive gold reserves, along with London's open and well-developed financial system. With this combination of elements, the pound became the primary international currency for over a century. It only lost this position when an even greater economic power emerged: the United States. Back-to-back world wars in the early 20th century caused worldwide destruction, while leaving the U.S. largely intact. This gave the U.S. economy a considerable advantage and attracted traders to the dollar. This economic strength and leadership created institutional advantages for the dollar. For example, in 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement centered the international economic system around the dollar. The dollar became the global reserve currency as foreign central banks agreed to peg their currencies to the dollar, while the dollar was pegged to gold. The Bretton Woods system ended in 1971, but by then the dollar's dominance was solidified. Today, the United States is the world's largest economy, and it's among the world's largest traders. It also has massive, open, and efficient financial markets, and U.S. debt is among the most stable assets in the world. These factors keep the dollar on top. Now, the dollar isn't perfect, but to a trader, it's the least bad option. China trades more than the US, but it also has restrictive financial markets that deter investors. The United Kingdom has highly developed and open markets, but it trades much less than the US. The euro and the Japanese yen also have limitations. And because the dollar is already on top, it gets the incumbency advantage of network effects. That's why the dollar is dominant. It's the best option for traders and for investors. But, as history has shown, if it stops being the best option, these actors will look elsewhere. Subscribe to CSIS and stay tuned for our next episode.